Hey everybody, this is Praxis. I've noticed that a lot of people in the preparedness community have been buying these kinds of products lately, these big parabolic solar cookers. They're big, they're flashy, they're exciting to pull out of the box, but there are a lot of things that are important to know about these, both from a functionality standpoint and a safety standpoint, that I wanted to share with you today. So I'm going to be sharing with you expert tips, and what I mean by expert tips is tips from someone like myself who has had this long enough for the entire top surface to be covered in rust. So first off, if you've bought one of these things, congratulations. Clearly you are dedicated to the idea of being off-grid, of having alternative energies and all that, and just being creative about how you're getting your energy. These things are really powerful, they're really wonderful, but it's important to know what they're good at and what they're not good at. Oftentimes in the videos that are in with the marketing materials on these things, you'll see somebody standing behind them in this little V section here, which gives you good access to it, and they'll be like scrambling eggs or something. You can do that kind of stuff, but you have to understand, if you're going to do anything other than boil water, and that's what I have on here right now, is just a pot of water. If you're going to do anything aside from boiling water, you really have to be right on top of this. Even something like a soup or a chili or something like that, little particles will go down to the bottom, and the heat point at the bottom of these is so hot, it is so intense, that I once had a cast iron pot. I was doing some chili in it, and some of the chili burned to the hot spot on the bottom of the pan. It boiled off its water, it allowed it to get hot, it allowed it to get above 212, and the pot cracked. The cast iron pot had a hole cracked in the bottom of it from the intensity of this thing. It is really strong, it is really intense, and you have to understand that. It is super good at heating water, and that's what I use it for all the time. I have it placed in a position in my yard where it gets early morning sun, so if I want to do water for tea or coffee or anything like that, I get water right in the morning, and then throughout the day I'll pop water on here for boiling for pasta, for bath water, all those kinds of other things. It is really good and really fast at heating water, but all the other stuff that you might want to do, scrambling eggs, chili, even boiling pasta, you have to be on top of it. You think about boiling pasta in water, it's mostly water, but if just a little bit of pasta settles onto the hot spot on here, it can stick to the bottom, and then it'll just overheat the bottom, and it can start cracking and burning and everything like that. Now, if you want to be able to walk away from something, solar ovens, and I have other videos on that. Here's some links to other videos that I've done about solar ovens. Those are great for being able to just set them up, walk away, and you don't worry about it. But with this, you really got to be on top of it, and you have to be present the entire time when you're cooking anything but water. And even water, you should be around, because it can start fires. So one of the other things that you always see in the marketing materials on this is showing how intense the heat is by somebody taking a stick and putting it right in the middle there. And I'm just going to do the same thing. You can already see it's already begun to smoke, and this stick is kind of wet too. So they are super, super intense. And because of that, you need to be really careful. If you leave this thing out like this, there's a chance that some leaves could come across here and catch on fire. So they sell these things with covers. Now the cover that I bought with this, it never really fit completely properly. There was nothing to ever really hook it on, and one time when I had it all covered up, to protect it so that you wouldn't have the sun's rays focusing, it blew off slightly, and it did this. Just part of it kind of opened up, the sun came underneath, and it started a fire on the underside there. So you have to be really serious about the idea of safety with these. In fact, with these, what I usually do, I don't even use the cover anymore. What I usually do when I know I'm going to be away for a while is I will take this thing and I will just disconnect it right off from here. And I'll take it and I'll put it upside down somewhere. And that is going to absolutely make sure that you don't start a fire. You have to be really serious about that, because fire is just so dangerous when it gets out of control, and you have to be very responsible if you have one of these. Now, if you're familiar with the way these things hook up, you know that in the back of these there's a little extending arm, and that allows you to adjust the height of it. And you might be thinking, well, if I'm going to be disconnecting it all the time, that's kind of a pain in the butt. I have to disconnect this kind of arm here. Now, I find that this arm never really worked for me. It's always kind of slipping and sliding around. I've tried retightening it a number of times, but it's always loosening up. So what I've done is I've begun using sticks to prop it up. And the benefit of just using sticks is that they are a lot quicker to set up. And in addition to that, they give it stability from being blown around in the wind that just this alone doesn't, because the wind can grab it and rotate it around. But if you have a couple of sticks, which I'll show you how to set up, it will make it much more stable and easier to break it down. Something else to keep in mind while you're focusing the sun's heat on the bottom of your pan is that while you get the most heat transfer when the focus beam is directly in the middle of your pan, because there's the least amount spilling off to the side, in practical use, because the Earth is rotating and the sun's position in the sky is constantly changing, it makes sense in the northern hemisphere to have your focus point be slightly off to the right of the pot as opposed to in the middle. And the reason for that is because as the Earth is rotating and the sun is moving to the west, that focus point is going to be drifting to the left across your pot. So whenever I come outside to refocus the light, instead of putting it back in the middle of the pot, I put it slightly off to the right, knowing that it's going to move across to the left and it's going to kind of sweep across the bottom, middle of the pot, and then go off to the right. And what that does for me is that it means that I don't have to come out and readjust the dish nearly as often. In fact, I can adjust it half as frequently if I do it that way, because I'm building in the idea that it's going to be constantly moving to the left anyway, and that saves you time. So here on the backside, you'll notice that the entire backside is covered in this kind of matrix of little pockets and things like that. And that was put on there to give it rigidity. It was part of the molding process and everything. But it creates a nice opportunity to use poles to kind of prop it up. Now I mentioned I never really use this bottom pole. I always just use sticks that I cut. And the nice thing about that is even if you use this bottom pole, the wind can grab this, like I was saying. It can blow it around and ruin your direction. So what I do is I take two of these and just pop them up, kind of wedge them into the little pockets that are naturally here on the back side, and you can use those to rotate it, get it all focused properly, and then you just stick them down into the ground. And what this does is not only does it keep the proper orientation of the dish like this, but also it's not going to get blown around nearly as easily with the wind kind of pushing side to side, because you've got these two sticks kind of bracing it side to side. So that has always worked much better for me, and certainly better than this arm, which even after I had it for maybe a month or so, this arm was just always slipping, always sliding, and it was just, it just never worked very well. Using just some sticks you cut from the woods not only works better than the arm, you know, for rigidity, but also keeps your dish from rotating around. This is a wonderful tool. It can heat up water really quickly, but you have to understand that it does certain things really well, it does other things not so great, and you have to be really, really serious about fire safety. That almost went really bad. This happened when I wasn't home. That could have been a real disaster. So if you can be aware of that stuff ahead of time and take the safety precautions, this could work a lot better for you, and you can avoid possibly burning down your house. That's it. I hope you find that helpful. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for new videos all the time. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so either through Patreon or PayPal.